grapples with the effects of global warming. To understand this, I spoke to Richard Kiplagat. He's the Managing Director at Africa Practice. Take a look.
When you add electricity to water, it separates the hydrogen and the oxygen, and you get pure hydrogen and pure oxygen. The beauty about hydrogen is that it's combustible, so it can be used as a fuel, in other words. And when you use a renewable energy, when you use energy that comes from renewable sources, such as wind, such as geothermal, such as hydroelectric power, or such as geothermal, or solar for that matter, you get a fuel that is clean, that doesn't come from oil, that doesn't come from fossil fuels, and therefore it has no or very little carbon emissions. And that, in the context of a global climate crisis, presents a great opportunity to offer the world a fuel that is clean and that helps us reduce emissions and helps us address the climate crisis. So for Kenya and for countries that have a lot of renewable energy, the exciting thing about green hydrogen is that where we have this beautiful asset, so plentiful potential for solar, plenty potential for wind, plenty potential in geothermal, we can unlock that potential and create a product, and actually products, several products, not just one, and I can maybe go into that a little later, that will monetize, that will add to our economy. And so this is very exciting for a country like Kenya, because it gives us the opportunity to grow our economy. And when it does that, it will, of course, generate jobs and impact the people in this country by putting money in their pockets and helping raise their standard of living. Green hydrogen, of course, produces hydrogen, which can be used as a fuel, as I mentioned, but you can also produce ammonia. So in Kenya, the government, together with a partner, is looking at creating green ammonia, or ammonia that comes from green hydrogen. That ammonia is a key ingredient in fertilizer. And what that will do for Kenya is it will enable Kenya to have access to more fertilizer. It will enable Kenya to have a lower cost of fertilizer, and it will also save Kenya valuable foreign exchange that we have been using to import a lot of our fertilizer. We'll of course not save all of that, but it will help us reduce the amount that we import, and it will help us to improve the productivity of our agricultural sector. So you can see how important that might be. The second area is in the ability to use hydrogen to create synthetic aviation fuel. And so one of the biggest emitters of carbon globally is the transport sector, the airlines that fly all over the world and that are at the heart of global transport. Now, there is an effort by aviation to move to clean fuels. One of those clean fuel options is synthetic aviation fuel, and that could create an opportunity for Kenya to be a hub of global supply of synthetic aviation fuel. And then the third area is in shipping. And so fueling ships with ammonia or with hydrogen-derived fuels could be a huge opportunity for this country. And then there's the opportunity to bring, or to onshore, as people say, to onshore industries, green industries that are fueled by green and renewable energy. The world is demanding that we decarbonize supply chains. We decarbonize not only the products, but the source of the inputs of those products, and also how we manufacture those products. And so Kenya has an opportunity to build industries that are green and to contribute to the decarbonization of global supply chains. So a lot of very interesting opportunities that are unlocked by production of green hydrogen. So the fantastic thing about Africa is that we are endowed with all the basic potential. I mentioned renewable energy. So Africa is the continent with the most potential around solar. And so countries such as Morocco have invested significantly in green hydrogen and have significant commitments to produce green hydrogen for supplying into Europe. Same with Egypt and Mauritania up in the northern part of the continent. There has been a significant investment and commitment made by the government of Namibia. The government of South Africa has a whole roadmap and what they're calling a hydrogen valley master plan that has already been articulated. And in Kenya, there is a draft hydrogen roadmap that should be very soon made public and adopted in this country. And so we're seeing a number of African countries, Djibouti also has made progress in that area, that have seen the opportunity of green hydrogen to transform their economies and that are making commitments to move as quickly as possible into a green industrial revolution. As the Africa Hydrogen Partnership, we have held a number of events. We have had trips to different countries across the continent. Most recently, we were in Djibouti and in Tanzania and in Mauritania. And so there's work being done, but I would be the first to admit that we need to do a lot more to educate our stakeholders beyond national governments and policymakers, especially to educate the public and the media to understand what this is all about and to appreciate the potential and to start looking at opportunities to develop skills, to identify opportunities to plug into the value chains and the other opportunities that will be made available in due course, to start looking at how as industries, how as businesses in manufacturing as an example, how as agricultural enterprises, we can look at the opportunity that green hydrogen presents and start making plans to get involved. It's a summit to announce to the world, number one, that whilst Africa indeed contributes the least globally to climate change and is impacted the most, the conversation around loss and damage has its limitations. It's not a complete conversation. There is a need for the narrative to move to a conversation where the world recognizes Africa's critical role in contributing to global climate change and to the global climate agenda. And this is going to be articulated in a number of ways. First of all, there'll be multiple voices from across the continent articulating the importance of moving to a positive green growth agenda for Africa. Secondly, there will be many examples of what is already happening on the continent around climate adaptation and investments. And there will be announcements in terms of what is going to be what new commitments are going to be made going forward as well. And then there will be critical partnerships that will be announced, because this is not only about Africa. Africa is driving this initiative, but Africa is supported by global partners, and I am confident that at the end of the summit on Wednesday, we will have begun a very strong movement towards the UN General Assembly recognizing the centrality of Africa's position as a key partner and not purely as a victim, towards COP in November, where we want to see decisions rather than promises, and where we can then ensure that the potential of Africa to help the world decarbonize, the potential for Africa to use a positive green growth agenda to